Easter eggs changed Call of Duty Zombies forever. There's something that turned just a simple round-based survival game into something that it is today and made it into the popularity that it has reached in recent years and even today. And that has been something that all of us have so much liked about zombies, the main Easter egg quest in these maps. But even with all that and everything good that Easter eggs have brought to zombies, it all hasn't been great. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about the 5 worst Easter egg steps in the history of Call of Duty Zombies. Starting off with number 5, this one is one that doesn't make too much sense when I first describe it, but anybody who was around the launch of this map knows exactly what I'm talking about. And this is in relation to a map called Revelations. And for the people who know, you already know, but for the people who don't, let's talk about this step, because the step I'm talking about is the second step of the Easter egg, or the rock step of the Easter egg, because my gosh, was it something to deal with when this map came out. So let me explain how the steps work for the people who don't know or maybe forgot. And how this works is that you need to get a keeper protector, and you have to take them to one of the many different bounce pads that are around the map. And after you take him to the correct one, he'll do a little dance and you have to defend him for that time, and then eventually he will shoot out a reel, which at first glance doesn't seem bad. But the problem is how do you know which bounce pad you have to take this keeper protector to? Well, don't worry, because Treyarch got you. They're going to leave an indicator at the correct bounce pad to let you know that's where you gotta take it. And what is this indicator? It's a rock. Okay, that's fine, but if you look at the bounce pad, you would realize that the bounce pad is made of rocks. Okay, so it must be something pretty significant. Well, no, because Treyarch decided the best way to do this is by having a little 2-inch rock pop out in the back bottom floor of the bounce pad to let you know that is the bounce pad you gotta take it to. And the problem with that is not only is it a small rock among a lot of rocks, right? But more than that is that even if you do come across the right one and you know what you're looking for, it's still a pain because you will not be able to see it most of the time, because the bounce pad has this blue glow effect that kind of leaves off a mist too, which makes it very difficult to see the bottom back of these bounce pads. So what you're going to have to do is bounce from that bounce pad to the next one and then bounce back, and while it's red and while the cooldown is on, that's when you have to check. And my gosh, is it annoying. But of course, as a step alone, it isn't just by itself annoying. And in fact, for the people who are hearing the description of the step alone are thinking, well, it must not be that bad, right? It sounds tedious, but nothing too much. But I assure you, one of the worst steps in Easter egg history, and I'll tell you why. Because if it doesn't sound bad, if you bring yourself back to Revelations launch and when people were first hunting this Easter egg, I'll have you know this Easter egg took weeks to solve. And you may think, well, this must have been a difficult quest all along. They slowly found different parts, but I'm sure you all know where I'm going with this. Instead, it was not like that. For the first week and a half, people were stuck on just this step, nothing else. And that's why this step makes the list, because how much of a pain for it was to be solved to begin with, because nobody could figure out that you're supposed to look for a little 2-inch rock that appears at the bottom back of a bounce pad. And my gosh, thank you Treyarch for that. We appreciate it, but this definitely makes this top 5. The next one we're going to talk about is also a BO3 map. As great as a game it was, it still has some problems, and this map that is Garage Crovey. And I know a lot of people that have already played Garage Rovi, they could think of a lot of steps that could possibly make this step. I mean, you have the Valve step, right? That one took multiple days, similar to the Revelations Rock step. Like, that was the one step that everyone was stuck on for a long time, and people couldn't even figure out how to do it, and they were doing it by luck and stuff like that. And it's true that step was annoying, and there's also many other annoying steps, like the bomb step, the mangler step, and any other ones you can name. But to me, there is one step that is more annoying than all the other ones, and what that is the Valkyrie escort step. And once again, let me tell you how it works. So what you have to do is head to spawn, and from spawn you will find a Valkyrie drone, and you have to escort this Valkyrie drone all the way back to the room where power is. Okay, you hear that? It's not that big of a deal. Escort steps, yeah, they suck in zombies, but, you know, they're just there and you got to deal with them, right? Well, this one's exceptionally bad, right? Because this step is so annoying because of this Valkyrie drone alone. Because, first off, this Valkyrie drone moves incredibly slow, like slower than any other escort thing in the history of zombies. It just moves so slow. And then on top of that, in order for it to even move, you have to be very close to it, very close in comparison to other escort steps. And if that's not annoying already, let's add another one on there, because Treyarch decided in their infinite wisdom that also you cannot hold a zombie at the end of the round and do this step, and instead they do continuous zombie spawns while you are doing the step to make it even better. And to top it off and put that cherry on top, you know what else they did? Sure, the zombies can't actually damage this Valkyrie drone, but the thing is with this Valkyrie drone is that it's incredibly weak, and if a stray bullet from your ray gun Mark III or your dead wire or any alternate ammo type or anything like that, any stray bullets, or if your gun's too powerful, accidentally hits this Valkyrie drone, it will immediately destroy and you will fail the step. And that's not even mentioning that also your Widows and wine grenades could also destroy this thing. And that's what makes it so annoying, with the mixture of it being so incredibly weak and the infinite zombie spawns just makes it a pain, and one of the worst Easter egg steps in the history of zombies. Number 3, and this one is going to take place on BO4, and expect that to be the norm going forward, but this one takes place on a map that I believe is the most overrated zombies map of all time, but that's not really important to this video. Instead, we are talking about the map 9, and the step I'm talking about is the manure step. Yes, there is a step where you literally have to create manure. I know, but let me explain why this is so difficult, because on face value and while doing the step, it's not difficult or tedious or anything like that really, but it's the effect it has on the rest of the Easter egg that makes it so much of a pain, because my gosh, they decided it was a great idea. But what this Easter egg step requires you to do, and keep in mind this is like the 3rd or 4th Easter egg step in the 9 Easter egg, and what you have to do is get 3 parts. The first part you need is bone marrow, and how you get this is by going down to Pack-a-Punch and finding a skull on the walls of Pack-a-Punch. And this doesn't sound too difficult, but then you have to remember that the walls of Pack-a-Punch is literally made of skulls, so good luck finding that. But after you do that, you have to take the skull to a grinder and then shoot it with the wonder weapon. It's not that big of a deal, but the only reason I'm bringing it up is because in order to get the wonder weapon, you do have to get your affinity up to get one of the parts, which isn't necessary because you can just get out of the box, but it's something you should keep in mind when we get over to the next part we need. And what the next part is going to be poop. Yes, you heard me correctly. You have to get poop as a part in order to complete a step inside zombies. I know, amazing. Thank you, Treyarch, for this. But this one's pretty easy to get. You just have to get your affinity low and actually negative, which again isn't a problem, but the only thing that is annoying about this is that first you have to get it up to get the wonder weapon part, and now you have to get it down to get this poop. Whatever, not a big deal, but something that is a slight annoyance. But then this brings us to our 3rd part, and this is charcoal. But Unfortunately, you can't just find charcoal, and instead you first have to get a piece of wood. And how you get this piece of wood is by bringing a gladiator to spawn and having him throw his axe through one of the priors, and when he does so, he will drop a piece of wood. And it doesn't sound that big of a deal, but then you have to remember that gladiators don't spawn until at least round 10. Which, again, not the biggest deal in the world. It is annoying that they make you get to round 10, but it's not the biggest deal. But now we can finally get into why this step is actually so bad, because what you have to do from here is that you have to take this piece of wood down to this furnace and put the piece of wood next to the furnace. And then you have to wait 3 rounds. So you are on round 10 because at the earliest a gladiator could spawn, and then this of course takes you to round 13, and then you can finally get the charcoal. But of course you're not done, because you have to actually mix all 3 of these components together, and you have to put the charcoal, poop, and bone marrow into a golden bowl. And then guess what you have to do after that? You have to leave it there for 2 rounds. And since you were already on round 13, if you're doing this as most efficiently as you can, this will take you to round 15. But of course, we're still not done there, because then after these parts have been fertilized, you have to take them down to under the Danu statue and put them there. And guess what you have to do again? Wait 3 rounds. So you were on round 15, now you're on round 18. So the earliest you could get this step done, if you're doing it as efficiently as possible, is round 18. That is not acceptable at all for any Easter egg step, but it's only made worse because this is one of the early steps of the Easter eggs, meaning the most difficult steps are still ahead of you, and you're going to have to be doing the most difficult steps on relatively higher rounds for Easter eggs, which I just don't think is a good idea, and honestly makes the experience of this Easter egg so much worse that you're forced to do the major steps on higher rounds relative for an Easter egg compared to any other Easter egg that we've ever done before. And I think it just makes this Easter egg really, really, really not fun. Number 2, well, number 2 is a slight cheat, I do have to admit, but I have good reasons for making it the second worst Easter egg step of all time. And you may not think this is valid because of my reasoning, but, you know, that's up to you guys to think it's valid or not. But regardless, what this step is the Pack-a-Punch quest on Dead of the Night. And I know I said that we were only going to be talking about main Easter egg steps, and technically the Pack-a-Punch quest isn't the same thing, but my gosh, it is necessary for the Easter egg, and also it is so bad it needed to be on this list. So for the people who don't know, once again, let's explain. So in order to get Pack-a-Punch open on Dead of the Night, you need 3 tuning forks. And how you get these tuning forks is actually very, very interesting. And how to start this off is you have to locate 3 different crystals around the map. And keep in mind, these crystals can spawn in 3 different locations. So if you want to do this without a guide and you just want to have it memorized, that already adds up to 9 different locations you need to have memorized. But regardless, when you finally find each of these individual crystals, you have to get kills by them. Not that many, but you have to get kills, and then you can interact with them. And they can show 1 of 3 different types of images. And we're going to go through these one by one. The first one is a perk statue, and this one really isn't that big of a deal, but it just lets you know you need to go to one of the perk statues around the map, and when you go there, vampires will spawn, and you have to kill them. They'll drop a tuning fork. Nothing crazy too far. The other thing you could possibly see is a clock, and this one is slightly interesting is because it could show you one of 3 different clocks. Now, this of course adds to the already many locations you have to memorize in order to do this without a guide, because now you have 3 different clock locations that you have to have memorized on top of the 9 different crystal locations. So that gets us to 12 different locations you need memorized for this. But after you find the clock you need to, you have to get kills there for a bit and just stand in the circle and you'll be fine. But then we get to why this step made it to this number 2 spot. And this is the final image, because the final image could give you a couple different images. Actually, it could rather give you a burning doll, Alistair's will and testament, new scary woman painting, woman and an elderly man painting, woman painting with scratches, or sad woman painting. And if you guys are wondering where I'm getting those names from, it's straight from Reddit, of course. But regardless, the problem here is that you have to have all of these locations memorized, again, if you don't want to do it with a guide, or you could look at them and run around the map forever, but no one wants to do that. But if we add all those things together, we have a new total of 19 different locations that you need to have memorized in order to do this without a guide. And of course it doesn't end there, because on top of finding the location of whatever of the image you got here, you then have to interact with it and do everyone's favorite thing in zombies, which of course is an escort mission. Now, I will admit that it's not that difficult, but it is annoying because it could go through walls and you could lose it sometimes, and then if you lose it, just kind of disappears and you have to find it all over again, and it's just a pain, and nobody likes escort steps on top of that. But regardless, once you finish escorting the ghost, then you'll get the final 2 units fork and you could get pack punch. Either way, the reason it made this list is because of not only how annoying and tedious it is because of it being a part of the Easter egg, but because also, and this is where I cheated, is because this is a pack punch quest, and this is something you have to do every single game in order to play it. You have to have 19 different locations memorized around the map just in order to open up pack a punch on this map. Keep that in mind. But regardless, I think that is more than enough valid of a reason to get this Easter egg step at number 2 of the worst Easter egg steps of all time. And finally, we made our way to the number 1 spot. And what is the worst Easter egg step in the history of Call of Duty Zombies? And honestly, I put a lot of thought into what could possibly take this number 1 spot. But no matter how much I thought of what the step could be, it was always going to be from one map. And what that map is none other than Blood of the Dead. And I'm sure anybody who has done this Easter egg knows what I'm talking about. This map is full of some of the worst Easter egg steps of all time, and if I didn't limit myself to just one bad Easter egg step per map, I probably would have put like all top 5 of these awful Easter eggs of all time would be from Blood of the Dead, but we had to put that limit because that'd make the video boring. So which one is it? Is it the bird step that you have to find a bird, then blast it, that the bird could be in 19 different locations, and you have to find this bird 4 different times on 4 different rounds? No. Is it the Simon Says step that is the first time in the history of Call of Duty Zombies that they made a Simon Says step bad? Well, no. Is it the Morse code step? I wish I would have said it was a Morse code step, but unfortunately we didn't, because my gosh, the Morse code step, the fact that you have to guess Morse code in this without any rhyme or reason behind it is incredibly dumb. But no, there's still something worse than all of those steps, and instead, what I believe to be the worst Easter egg step in the history of Call of Duty Zombies is none other than the Key Shield Blast Escort step. I don't really know what to call this step, but my gosh, is it bad. And let me just describe this thing for the people who don't know, or maybe and hopefully you forgot about this. But what you have to do is find a ghost in the original Spawn 2 Mob of the Dead, which now is Blood of the Dead, and you have to find him and shield blast him with your shield. But then right after that, you have to actually start shocking him with the key, and you have to ensure you do shock him as often as you can, because if you don't shock him enough and you don't deal enough damage with the key, he will make his way all the way to near spawn, and then he will go kill another ghost and you'll fail the step. And right there, it sounds annoying, but not too bad. But it gets even better, because then from there you have to keep in mind that the blasts that you do to him don't permanently reveal him and permanently let you shock him with the key. So instead, you have to keep blasting him, shock him with the key, he disappears, blast him, shock him with the key, and keep doing that until you deal enough damage. But the problem then pops up again when the fact that no matter how many players you have in your game, you will never have enough shield blast, because Treyarch, in their abundance of wisdom, decided that no matter how many players in your game there is, you are going to need one more shield blast than you could possibly hold on all of your shields. So if you're playing solo, if I'm not mistaken, I think you could hold up to 4 shield blasts, so it's 5, and then just do the addition from there from co-op and all that stuff. And that is super annoying, and because of that, I think this step makes the list as the worst Easter egg in the history of Call of Duty Zombies. I'm sure everybody has their own Easter egg steps that they could think of that are just as bad or even worse, in at least their opinion. But for me, these are what I see to be the 5 plus a couple worst Easter egg steps in the history of zombies. But regardless, that's about it for me. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on what I decide is the 5 worst, and I'd love to hear what you guys think are the 5 worst, if you agree or disagree and stuff like that. I'd love to hear that down in the comments. But regardless, that's about it for me. If you guys did enjoy the video, definitely do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and all that great stuff. But I'm going to go, and I'll catch you guys next stream, video, or like maybe, and laters, guys.